Helen Adams Keller was an American author, political activist, and lecturer. She was the first deaf-blind person to earn a Bachelor of Arts degree. The story of Keller and her teacher, Anne Sullivan, was made famous by Keller's autobiography, The Story of My Life, and its adaptations for film and stage, The Miracle Worker. Her birthplace in West Tuscumbia, Alabama, is now a museum and sponsors an annual Helen Keller Day. Her June 27 birthday is commemorated as Helen Keller Day in Pennsylvania and, in the centenary year of her birth, was recognized by a presidential proclamation from U.S. President Jimmy Carter. The two most interesting characters of the 19th century are Napoleon and Helen Keller. That was the opinion that Mark Twain voiced about Helen Keller when she was only 15 years old. He reasoned that Napoleon failed to conquer his word as he intended, but Keller conquered hers. Keller traded the titles of blind, deaf, and mute, given to her as a child for the titles of scholar, philosopher, author, motion picture actress, traveler, lecturer, and winner of countless awards and accolades. At 19 months old, Keller contracted an unknown illness described by doctors as an acute congestion of the stomach and the brain, which might have been scarlet fever or meningitis. She suffered the fever that took her to the brink of death. When the fever broke, the disease was gone, but so were her abilities to see, hear, and speak. Experts predicted a life doomed to a void of eternal dark silence. The illness left her both deaf and blind. She lived, as she recalled in her autobiography, at sea in a dense fog. Keller, however, refused to relinquish her curiosity about the world, or her desire to communicate. Her attempts at communication prompted her to overturn the baby carriage in which her baby sister was sleeping, and shortly thereafter, to catch her apron on fire. Alarmed by these behaviors, her parents sought help, including the counsel of Alexander Graham Bell. A year later, the search for a teacher ended when Anne Mansfield Sullivan became Keller's mentor, friend and taught her to make an association with objects and letters that were fingered into her hands. At that time Keller was able to communicate somewhat with Martha Washington, the 2 years older daughter of the family cook, who understood her signs by the age of 7. Keller had more than 60 home signs to communicate with her family, and could distinguish people by the vibration of their footsteps. Within months, Keller's remarkable progress had attracted the interest of educators nationwide. Unwilling to limit her communication to reading and writing, braille and raised print, Keller began to take speech lessons and eventually learned to speak not only English but also French and German. She successfully completed courses in Latin, Greek and Roman history, and she earned honors in English and German. In 1900, she entered Radcliffe College. During her life, Keller lectured in every state of the Union, speaking mainly on the needs of the blind and raising funds to help found the National Committee for the Prevention of Blindness. She also helped create the American Foundation for the Blind. She wrote a number of books and essays, and she made a motion picture of her life. Somewhat ironically, one of the most famous quotes attributed to Keller is this: "Keep your face to the sunshine and you cannot see the shadows." Helen Keller, wrote her friend Edward Everett Hale, a poet and teacher, cannot see the written word in the stars, in the ocean, in the green grass, in the violet, or the dandelion. She cannot hear the spoken word in the song of the bluebird, or the cricket of the peep frog, or the thunder, or the surf on the shore. But nonetheless, she does know what is the omnipotence of God, what is the infinite range of hope, and what is faith in the unseen. On September 14, 1964, President Lyndon B. Johnson awarded her the Presidential Medal of Freedom, one of the United States' two highest civilian honors. In 1965 she was elected to the National Women's Hall of Fame at the New York World's Fair. A prolific author, Keller was well-traveled and outspoken in her convictions. A member of the Socialist Party of America and the Industrial Workers of the World, she campaigned for women's suffrage, labor rights, socialism, antimilitarism, and other similar causes. She was inducted into the Alabama Women's Hall of Fame in 1971, and was one of 12 inaugural inductees to the Alabama Writers Hall of Fame on June 8, 2015. Keller devoted much of her later life to raising funds for the American Foundation for the Blind. Keller suffered a series of strokes in 1961 and spent the last years of her life at her home. She died in her sleep on June 1, 1968 at her home, Arkin Ridge, located in Easton, Connecticut, a few weeks short of her 88th birthday. A service was held in her honor at the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C. Her body was cremated and her ashes were placed there next to her constant companions, Anne Sullivan and Polly Thompson. She was buried at the Washington National Cathedral in Washington, D.C. Helen Keller lived, amidst all the unanswered questions. She showed how much God can use someone despite the human odds, despite the limitations. What do you say is limiting you? You can be a world changer. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe, also comment if necessary.